Hello, my fellow chatterers and book devourers, and anyone else who's popped in because you're curious or you're lost. I'm Chattie, and welcome to my channel, Chattie the Mad Chatter, where I am chatting away madly about my July wrap-up. It is a belated wrap-up. I was hoping to film this before I went on holiday, but I didn't, so I'm doing it now, and it's going to come out at some point. As always, we do one-shots with no editing here. So I am slightly terrified, but let's do this. So, as I said, I'm slightly terrified because I was a bit slumpy this month. So I think I got the halfway month point and I'd only read 2 books and was kind of meandering with the others. So I didn't really feel I had enough material to do a kind of like a halfway point wrap up. So I thought it's fine, I'll just do one big one. But now I've got one big wrap up to do, and we know I like to talk. So luckily, as you can see here, these are the books I have read. There are 7 of them. This is slightly less than I usually read, but that's fine. But I still have a lot to say about them. And there are some books I kind of want to go into spoiler territory with. So I am breaking this video up into the non-spoiler wrap-up, which is this one. Welcome to the non-spoiler wrap-up. If you want to hear more about these books and my thoughts on these books, and you have read them or don't mind being spoiled, then please also watch the spoiler wrap-up, where I will go into more specifics about these books and why I felt certain ways about them. So yes, I'm hoping I can be succinct, but I have written at least 15 pages of notes. I've just been like writing stuff to say. So we'll see how it all goes. So I have my tea. Let's go for this. If you saw my July TBR videos, then you will be aware that I wasn't doing a reward or punishment for my TBR this month. I selected 4 books to do a tea and taste, and they were The Stardust Thief, The Mercies, The Lamplighters and Poldark. I never got around to doing that. In July, it just didn't happen. So I am deferring it to another month. It probably won't happen in August either. It might happen in September. So we will still be doing a tea and taste with those books, but I'm just not sure when because it didn't fit in. And also the other books I picked. So I then selected 8 books of possibilities I could read this month, and they're then making up my seasonal shelf. I have a shelf kind of near my bed where I change it every 3 months. It's kind of book series I'm wanting to focus on, books I'm kind of highlighting to myself out of kind of different things I'm hoping to read, to kind of keep these books in my mind, to remind myself that I want to read these ones. So it kind of gives a little spotlight on those books. I read some of them, I don't read all of them, but it's just like a reminder for me. So that's made my seasonal shelf. And these books were, I've written them down because I can't remember them all. The Girl with the Louding Voice, The Daughter of the Moon Goddess, Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters, The Secret Life of Bees, Get a Life, Chloe Brown, An Arrow to the Moon, The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea, and Thunderhead. And I didn't read any of those. So all the books I picked on my July TBR, read nothing of those, went completely rogue. So these are the books that I did read. 2 of these I totally adored and were amazing. 1 was not for me. 2 I have mixed feelings about. And 2 I loved and kind of brought me back up out of my slumpy feelings. So I am also going to be doing a stats video. And as it's not a set July TBR, there's not going to be a reward or punishment, but I'm going to go through like the stats of the books, and I'm also going to go through my least favourite and favourite. And actually this month I am going to order them fully. So I'm going to be like, this is my least favourite all the way up to my favourite, which will be fun. So focusing on these books, I'm now going to reveal the books. They're kind of in the thumbnail anyway, but ready? Let's reveal with the power of pause. And ta-da! There they all are, looking very beautiful on the bookshelf. So one of these was like an impulsive pickup. 3 of these I've progressed in a series. 2 I had started in June and for different reasons paused, so it was nice to go back and fully finish out those books. For a part of my Chattie's challenge, which I still don't have a video explaining fully what this is to you guys. This was one of the videos that I had made, didn't want to remake, but my laptop was then complaining and refusing to upload things I made. It was like, no, it's too difficult, it's too long, I can't do it. So that's why I don't edit anymore. So I may do a kind of video about all of that stuff. Let me know if you're interested, or if you're quite happy to vaguely alluding to a challenge and then never explaining it. And some of these are library books that needed returning and still need returning, and I haven't returned one yet, even though I've renewed it 4 times, and there'll be a bit of a fine coming because I needed it for this video. So there we go. Fun times. So yes, this is the non-spoilers. Let's crack on with the books. So the first one that I finished this month was the impulsive one I picked up from the library. And this is Confessions of an Alleged Good Girl by Joya Goffney. I've not read Joya Goffney before. She's got 2 books out. This is the most recent one, and it is a YA contemporary. And I saw it in the library and was immediately like, oh, I need to pick that book up right now, because I heard Ashley from At Bookish Realm in her May 22 what she's read wrap up feelings about books absolutely rave about this book. I mean, seriously rave about how good it was. And I love a YA contemporary. I also love healthy sex ed messages, healthy body messages, and this seemed to tick all of those boxes. And yes, it absolutely lived up to all the hype she was giving it. It was excellent. It was so excellent. It was really, really well done and so readable. Like, I just flew through this. The characters are adorable. So the main protagonist, Mo, short for Monique, is a preacher's daughter. She is in a relationship. She's been in a long-term relationship, and she wants to have sex with her boyfriend, but she's not able to. Like, she physically tries, but physically is not able to do it. And the theme throughout this book is all of these really positive messages about owning your own body, and about healthy attitudes towards sex, and what a healthy relationship looks like, and loving your body, loving your own body and taking ownership of your own body. There is also a really unlikely friendship between 3 of the characters in this book, which I absolutely love. I think it's fabulous. There is also themes of family in here, and forgiveness and not judging. So quite a lot of the characters, you have this perception of them, and then by the end of the book your perception has totally changed. It's a really warm story. There's like some bits that do feel very hard to read, so do check the trigger warnings. As always, I'm going to be putting the Storygraph links to these, and Storygraph has fantastic trigger warnings for you to check out. So do go in like being aware of stuff if you feel this could be triggering to you. So yeah, it has absolutely amazing messages, fantastic characters, really fast paced, and also really explores a medical condition that I was absolutely not aware of. And it also looks a little bit at the psychology and things, and the family is fantastic in here. So I highly recommend this book. And I will be talking about it more in the spoilers video, which will come after this one. Ta-da! What do I do with this? Put it over here. Now I've focused on that one, so you can't see it because it's behind my head. We'll work it out. Second book that I read was The Mad Ship by Robin Hobb, which is the second book in the Liveship Traders series, which is the second series in the realm of the Elderlings overall. And again, with the Liveship Traders, if you were thinking of picking up these books and haven't read them before, again, do check the trigger warnings on Storygraph, because there's a lot that happens in these books. So do just check things out. And read carefully and hug people, I think is a good plan. I love these books. If you saw my mid-year freakout, you will know that Ship of Magic was my favourite book, and one of my favourites, and I absolutely raved about it and loved it so much. And the Mad Ship continued that journey even more. It gave me more. I love Hob. She's a genius. Her world building is so detailed. The characters grow and develop in really truthful, organic ways. We pick up where we left off with all of the characters. We have more action on Liveships. We have more serpents. There's more mysteries with the Rain Wild characters. We have some new characters. We meet the satrap and some of his companions, who is kind of like the ruler of Jamila. And Jamila has this kind of Bingtown where most of the characters in this book are from, and where the Liveship traders come from, that's their home port, are under the kind of law and ruling of Jamila. So they have kind of an agreement and a treaty with them. We also meet some Chalcedine ships, Chalcedine being the kind of neighbour on the other side of Bingtown that you kind of feel would like to take over Bingtown if they could. So they have this threat feeling. So there's a lot more politics of Bingtown going on in this book, and I will be talking more about this in the spoilers. But if you love epic fantasy and you haven't picked up the Liveship Traders, but you have read the Farseer, pick up the Liveship Traders. If you haven't, read Farseer first. But yes, love. You do that? Maybe it might fall over, it might go chaos. There we go, it's gone chaos. Hey ho. So yes, I had the normal, sorry, just checking my notes, so we're done with that one. I had the normal Hob hangover after finishing that. You're just in this whirlwind of emotions and you're just not sure what to pick up next. So I went for completing a series, finishing a book that I've been supposed to read since April and have been failing at, and that was Inkdeath by Cornelia Funke. So this is the third book in the Inkworld trilogy. I have read this once before. I borrowed it from the library because I owned Inkheart and Inkspell, but I wasn't really in a position to be buying new books when this one came out. So luckily found it in the library and finished off the trilogy. And at the time I absolutely loved it, thought it was fantastic. One of my favourite fantasy series. Rereading this, I cannot remember what happened at all, but I read Inkheart and absolutely loved it. It brought all the same feelings, all the same joy. It was so wonderful. Inkspell felt a little bit denser and darker, and Inkdeath continues with that same tone. There are slightly lighter moments very slightly lighter moments in this one, but it does feel like it has this kind of very kind of somber, melancholy feeling to it amid the kind of sort of there is some magical whimsy in there as well, but we deal with a lot of dark characters in these books. We follow the fate of our two protagonists. So in the first book there was kind of one main protagonist, which is a child's point of view, and as we kind of moved into Inkspell it was kind of a mixture. In Inkdeath there's a shift in protagonists and we have more of an adult perspective in this one. And the characters that are awful continue to be awful and become more awful, which kind of continues to bring the melancholy dark somber tone along. The story kind of has its lightness from a return of some characters that we were missing, and I definitely felt the space that they left, so when they came back it made me feel so good. They go to different areas in Inkworld. I think we can have a little look at the map because we all love a map. So here we go. So this is, where was it? Yeah, so this is kind of like as high as the map went before. So we've now got all of this above it that we explore. And yeah, we have another dark castle. Very atmospherical writing. Cornelia Funke's writing is fabulous. You definitely get the sense of place where you are. I just think I found it very dark for a middle grade. I think is not a middle grade. I think this is YA. Inkheart is on the cusp, I feel. Inkspell and Inkdeath, because of how dense they feel and because of how much is packed in here and because the pace is slower, I feel it is more YA. I feel that is more the age range that this is more suitable for. And there are things in here, there's nothing explicit in terms of like sexual content, but there is an implication of sexual abuse within some of the characters. Just a very slight sentence hinting at those type of things. And there is violence in here. Even if we don't physically see, well, no, we do see some violence. Even if the most gross stuff isn't seen, it is, they word it, they explain it. There is horrors in here. So tread carefully. For me, because from middle grade, I prefer a lighter feeling to it. It was stressful. It was stressful, and that's not what I read middle grade for. But I'm really pleased I reread it, saw where the story went. It concludes. It was really nice to revisit it, and I enjoyed it. But I think Inkheart has that special place for me with the love of books, and it's a standout favourite, whereas Inkspell and Inkdeath are enjoyable, but they don't have the same feeling that Inkheart gave me. And then I finished off a book that I had started in June, which was A Court of Mist and Fury. So I read a bit of this in June, was frustrated, paused it. Then I read a bit more in June and then moved on to something else. And if you read my June wrap up, you will know why I paused it. I explained a few feelings about how I felt about the beginning of this book. Sorry, necessary tea drink. And I think it's safe to say, if you love this, you love it. If you don't, yeah. If you don't, you don't, basically. I was hoping maybe something would change and I would find the enjoyment that other people find. And it didn't. This is the not for me book. This series was not written for me. Maybe I came at it at the wrong time. Maybe if I'd read it years ago, I would have really enjoyed it. But yeah, it's not for me. So I think when I read ACOTAR, I thought it was fine. It did what it set out to do. But I struggled more with Akamath. So I think that this is down to the fact that this is a book, if you love the series, I think this is the favourite of everybody. Everyone seems to really love this one and rave about this one. This is the best. They love it so much. So I was kind of maybe expecting to see certain things from it that it kind of didn't give me. So ACOTAR, I think that there was a plot happening, and Feyre had agency, sometimes misplaced agency, but she had agency, whereas at the start of this one, there is a lot of soul searching going on. A lot of soul searching. I've already spoken in my June wrap up, which I'll link, about I appreciate what SJM is trying to do with the characters kind of being traumatized by events of the previous book. You know, it's not being swept under the carpet. She's showing a human emotional reaction to things. She's also trying to show a certain difference in healthy relationships and non-healthy relationships. But the way it's done, it makes me feel like I'm being beaten around the face with it. It's not subtle. And because it's not subtle, and because I feel the points are being hammered home, I don't invest in it. It makes me pull back. It makes me roll my eyes. So I felt frustrated with it, and I rolled a lot. And there is also I feel there's a massive 180 that she's trying to unravel and return us to, so she can get to the point of the story she wants to tell. And she really, really wants readers to love two particular characters and their story and be invested in their story. So I felt that was overkill. I also felt it was unnecessary, which I will kind of come on to or I might come on to in spoilers, I can't remember. So it's my first fantasy romance series, and I think neither hit the right mark for me. So the fantasy element is not gripping me. I'm not afraid of all the threats they are talking about in here because I don't feel I've seen them. I don't think I've seen enough of the world to kind of get it. I'm just being told about it. And so I'm not invested in what's happening within this fantasy world. And the romance, I think, makes me eye roll. And I think it's because Feyre is very huffy and the other character is being put on a pedestal. This massive pedestal is being built for them. And I think it's very unnecessary. I don't need the characters to be so good for me to like them. I found them more interesting when there was kind of an edge to them and you didn't kind of know which way. So yeah, it wasn't working for me. I did enjoy seeing the sisters again. So you get to meet Feyre's sisters from the mortal world. I mean, I was all for her just leaving Fairyland and going back to find her family, quite frankly, but there we go. But I find the sisters' relationship, I find it really quite contradictory because in ACOTAR, you have Beauty and the Beast kind of set up, you know, Feyre's Belle, she's the nice sister, the other two are a bit of a pain, Feyre's going off hunting in the woods to feed her very poor, destitute family, and the money she makes from the kills and the food she brings in, the other two complain, and they spend their money on finery as though they're no longer destitute. It's addressed slightly in ACOTAR. The elder sister Nesta was like, oh, I didn't agree with what you're doing because I felt you were helping Dad out and he should have been taking care of us. And that is quite a flimsy excuse because regardless of what you feel about your dad, you're still letting your younger sister go into the forest and kill stuff without helping her at all and being a bit of a bitch, basically. But I think her character is one of the more interesting ones in the story. But I still just don't quite get their relationship. There definitely should have been a lot more unpicking of that dynamic, and you know, someone should say sorry. But there we go. And it's being sold as she's hard, but she loves her family. And the younger sister is being sold as this beautiful, loves everybody, sweetheart. It's like, you still were totally clueless letting your sister go off into the woods. But there we go. It is what it is. So it was interesting to see them again. The newfound family that we get in here vomit their tragic backstories all over Feyre. And again, it just didn't work for me because it's like, oh, another terrible past. We're supposed to like you because of your terrible past. Okay, cool. The only one that wasn't true for was More. We get more of her story kind of actually in the main plot line. Like, it is actually saved until later on in the book and kind of told more naturally than, it's a dinner party, we've met you for the first time. Blah! Here's my tragic backstory. So yeah, what else was I going to say? Oh yeah, I am intrigued by the character Amaran. Maybe more comes out in the next ones, I don't know. But everyone is beautiful and heroic, and has suffered but is doing their best, so we should love them because they're the good guys, even if they look like the bad guys, they're the good guys. And everyone who is supposed to be, we're supposed to not like, has either evil past coming out or a weak past where they didn't do the right thing. So we're supposed to not like them. And I just find that very unexciting. It's just like, I feel like I'm being really pushed in a direction, and I feel you should let me make up my own mind about how I feel about characters. But that, again, it's just my opinion. I know this is beloved and people love it. This is just why it's not working for me. The end was interesting. Let's see where it goes. I'm not invested in this series, but I am interested to see how it plays out. And my Chattie talent is that I read, over the last 7 years, the most popular fantasy books that were kind of a way of kind of getting those is from looking at the Goodreads Choice Awards. So obviously the winner of the 2021 was A Court of Silver Flames. So I want to read this to get to that point, to do all of that stuff. But there's going to be a big gap between me picking up Wings and Ruin. Wings and Ruin? Wind and Ruin. Something and Ruin, the third one. There'll be a gap because I need time to calm down and not have to deal with this quite so much. But maybe it'll be more interesting. Maybe Faye will have more agency within that book due to the new position she's in. So there we go. I will do more. I have more to say about this, which I will say in the spoiler video coming after this one. I'm just going to put that one there because then they'll stay up. There we go. So yeah, both Inkdeath and A Court of Mist and Fury felt quite dense and slow paced. And I think that put me in more of a slumpy mood. I just wasn't reading as quickly, wasn't reading as much, and was feeling a little bit bogged down by reading. So I think that was where I hit my slumpy mode. But the next book I picked up was one that I've been wanting to pick up for a while, but I'm also feeling very anxious about. So that was V.E. Schwab's The Secret. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. So this is a book that I'd been storing under my bed for a while. As you can see, this is the hardcover, and I only just gave it to myself recently. Earned it from under my bed. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, I have a video link. So I'd seen lots of people talking about this book. I knew Schwab was a beloved author. I saw lots of people loving this, and the book is beautiful. See, the book, we've got the beautiful things. Now I get that this is her hair and these are the flowers in her hair. So this is beautiful bronze hair, and I presume the dots are alluding to the 7 freckles. And then inside we have the wooden ring links, and we have Addie here in her leather jacket. So very pretty end pages. And then also on the front we have this beautiful tree here. It's so pretty. So I was just like, oh, everyone loves this book. What a beautiful copy. I will get it. So it had a bit of hype in that respect. But then the anxiety comes in that I read the Shades of Magic series, which I felt I should really, really love. The first book, Dark Shade of Magic, I felt underwhelmed by it. I enjoyed it, but it didn't hit the hype that I was hoping for it to. I was like, it's fine, it's the first book, it's okay, we'll move on. Second book, big improvement, loved the characters. Wasn't quite sure of the plot, but characters were great, and the setup for the third, excellent. So excited. I have read part 1 of the third and then paused the book because I was getting so frustrated with it. It kind of just went for me, just within that first part. I was like, oh no. So with that in mind, I was very apprehensive picking up Addie LaRue because I was like, I don't want to be disappointed again. I really want to love it. So I was so pleased that MJ had this as her group read, because that gave me the confidence to read. I was like, other people are going to help me through this. It's going to be fine. And it was great because so many people were loving this. I was really excited to pick it up. It was really nice to chat to other people, and as I was reading through the chapters, I'd look at the little bits that they'd said. I'd click the spoiler tabs and be like, yes, I agree with that point, or I'd forgotten that. Very good. I really enjoyed all of that on MJ's Discord. It was fabulous. So this is the genre. It's classed as fantasy. I put it in the genre of magical realism, which is not really an advertised genre, and it's basically a mixture of fantasy, contemporary, sometimes historical fiction, and this is all 3. So it is kind of more of a historical fiction / contemporary with kind of like the dual timelines. We have Addie now. We also were reading back at Addie's past. The fantastical part comes in with the premise. She has sold her soul for immortality, but no one will recognize her and remember her. So she can have a conversation with someone. As soon as they leave the room and are no longer with her, they come back and do not know who she is. And she can't make a mark. She can't write her name. She can't draw anything. She can't say her name, so no one knows her, hence Invisible Life of. So that's where the fantastical element comes in, which is why I have this as magical realism, because it is mainly set within the world we know. So the writing style is lovely. I really liked the art links that we get on the pages. Let me see if I can find the first one. There we go. So you have a picture of a piece of art, whether it's sculpture, painting, photographs, and then you have a bit of information about the artist and where this came from. And all of the art links to Addie, and you can see like slight, it's part of her history and things in there. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it, and art seemed to be quite a big theme throughout this book. I was very intrigued by how she got to that point of selling her soul, of how she managed to survive was really fascinating. I'm also enjoying the ride. There were a lot of emotional moments in here as well, and some of them really kind of like hit me, and I loved all of that. We were introduced to another character who I really loved. They're a bit mysterious, so there's further intrigue around them. And there's more emotion. There's moments where I felt really happy, and I was really enjoying it. Although I could see the point that Sid, from that story time with Sid, made about Addie not seeming to have any growth over her 300 years, or kind of wanting to affect other people's lives in a more meaningful way, other than her trying to make a connection with people. But for me at that point, I didn't really need that. I thought this is a story that Schwab wanted to tell. I thought the themes that were being explored were kind of different to more of a, what's the word when you do good things? There's a specific word, you know, when you like do lots of charity work and good deeds and things like that. That wasn't the vibe of the story. Sorry, I can't remember the word. If I could edit, I'd type it in, but I can't, so we'll just have to imagine the word. If you know it, please write it in the comments. Or I might write it in the comments. Anyway, that wasn't the story that Schwab wanted to tell, and that was fine. I was kind of on the ride with the story that she was telling. But then we got closer to the end, and there was a bit of a change. I felt there was a change in the direction the story was going in. And suddenly, the power play between two characters started to take more centre stage, and the story seemed to take a different turn as we were getting to the ending. And then we got to the ending, and suddenly, like, the theme that we'd had of loneliness and of the ability to create things kind of went in a very different way. And I finished the book and went, okay, that was not where I thought the story was going at all. And I feel like I've misjudged things in here about what Addie wanted. So that was a bit awkward. It was it just felt like it's changed. Like I was along here, I was loving it, I was on board, I was like, this is fabulous, hooray, thank goodness I love this book. And then just the ending just changed everything that I thought this book was kind of heading towards. And I think Addie and I are very different people. But I thought she wanted a certain thing and felt a certain type of way. And I now feel that I totally misread her and what she wanted. And that made me question the way the story was told and the way the plot went, that this was where we ended up. And it felt like I was questioning everything. So I was doing this for like the middle of the book, and by the end we're like, it's not really looking at you anymore book. It just didn't. It's a shame, because I feel endings are, that's where the story ends up, that's where it goes in the end, and I feel like I can't enjoy a story again knowing it goes in a place that I didn't feel suited the story, or like the story, if that's where you want it to go, I needed other things in the story for me to make sense of that. So it didn't work for me in the end, and it's really frustrating because up until that point I was on board. So I think me and Schwab are not the writer and reader combination that I was hoping for, which is very sad. And I will go more into this with the spoiler video. Yeah. So let's move on. So then I read The Emperor's Soul. It's a nice, tiny little book. It's Brandon Sanderson, an author I love, and it just felt so nice to be back in a Brandon Sanderson book after all of my slumpiness. So I've very much felt this book has been hyped for me since I did a Tea and Taste, where I read the first chapter. At that time, I'd been reading a lot of fantasy and kind of wanted to have a different read, so I didn't go for this one, but it made me really excited to pick it up. And I wasn't disappointed. As you can see, it's a novella, it's an adult fantasy. It's a standalone, but it's set in the same world as Elantris, but it's like on the other side of that world. So it's not really got any connections to it. You can read this without having read Elantris or anything else. You know, if you just wanted to pick this up and you've not read a Brandon Sanderson, you absolutely can just pick it up. It's not going to spoil anything for you. So it has a protagonist that we root for. She is clever, she is strong, she is likeable. So much fun. There's a really well-developed cast of characters in here. The world is beautifully built up. You're really immersed in it. It feels so real. There's a very intriguing plot going on, and there's a really fantastic magic system in here. And it all worked. It all worked, and it all worked within a novella. 170 pages, 175, 170. It's 170 pages. And within 170 pages, a beautiful story was told. And it was wonderful. And I would like more, please, of this world and the magic system and these characters. So thank you very much. This was delightful and exactly what I needed. And then finally, I picked up... Well, no, I'd already picked this up, but I finished She Who Became the Sun. So I paused this because I thought I would be able to fit this into some prompts within whatever-a-thon. But I needed it to be read at a certain point where I'd be able to use it in the board to get maximum points. And I ran out of time and it didn't happen. But since then, I was very keen to kind of pick it up and carry on reading. But I felt I needed to get other ones out of the way first. I'm so glad I left this to the end of the month and picked it up and just immersed myself in it because it was such a delightful read. My expectations, I was a bit unsure about how I'd feel about this book. Because from what I've seen, people love it's in two parts and people love one part more than the other, was what I had seen. But I did not find that so. It wasn't such an obvious split. The story really flowed into the other. So I was a bit apprehensive because I was really enjoying it. So I was like, well, I'm obviously not going to like the second part. But I did. So the first part, you have Zu, the novice monk, in the monastery, learning, pretending to be male, and so she can get an education, and so she can have a life. And we have her journey as she continues through the monastery. And then the second part is we have Zu navigating the war camps and her political journey. Sorry, just had to run off to deal with something then. So yeah, the second part is Zu sort of navigating her way through the war camps, and there is a lot of politics going on from different sides within the story. You're introduced to another protagonist and follow their journey as well. And they're sort of almost like a bit of an adversary to Zu, so that's where you get the two different storylines. I really loved the writing and the historical details within this book, so beautifully written. The atmosphere was fantastic in here. It very much does read historical fiction, so again, although this is classed as a fantasy, I would also say magical realism within a historical fiction setting. Because although Zu can see ghosts, and towards the end we get the hints of a magical element, it's very small throughout this book. So if you're going into this expecting a full-on fantasy world, you may be disappointed. It is historical fiction, but it's fantastic. It was so good. And again, I really enjoyed the character of Zoo. There is a ruthless side to quite a lot of the characters in this story, and Zoo has that, but she's also very likable. She's cheeky, she is very strong, she's very clever, and has a goal and goes for it. I really love the fraternal relationship she has and the romantic relationship that she develops as well. And I can't wait for the sequel. I'm really looking forward to it. It was excellent. Thank you very much, Shelley Parker Chang. It's exactly what I wanted to read. So there we go. That's the last one. We've done it all. So yes, those are the 7 books I read. I will be doing a spoilers video where I will talk more about them. Whether or not I have time to record that today, which was what I was hoping to, I might have to record that with half the books missing because they really need to go back to the library. But I will also be doing my stats video. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know your thoughts on any of these books. And if you want to hear more of mine, then please go and check out the spoilers video that I will be releasing. Happy reading, everybody!